I don't look into Anthony Fauci's head. I don't look into Bill Gates' head. I don't say he did this because he was greedy or because he was manipulative. I just lay out what they did, and the story speaks for itself.
The Bobby Kennedy addition to the MAGA movement, turning into the Maha movement, which sort of sounds softer, which sounds like the kind of acronym that will draw a broader base than the hard fricative. Is that a fricative? I don't know. I'm not sure what noise that is. But in any event, Maha meets MAGA means big trouble for the Democratic Party movement. I would agree. Would you agree? Let me know in the comments and the chat. Because a COVID reckoning, which is what Bobby Kennedy is promising, would mean that the pharmaceutical industry would be taken to task, the FDA would be taken to task, the CDC would be taken to task, the NIH would be taken to task, there might be one more H in that, that Anthony Fauci would, likely face trial, that we would see and gain access to the data around clinical trials, adverse events, excess deaths, vaccine company profits, lies that were told in the media, censorship that took place on Facebook, Twitter and other social media platforms, prominent anti-vaccine voices, as they were called at the time, that may have been censored or subject to other attacks, an area that I am personally investigating very seriously, you better believe, as a result of events last year. So a COVID reckoning is a great opportunity indeed, and Bobby Kennedy is promising one. Let me know in the comments and chat if you think this could provide, tell me seriously, do you think this could change the narrative? Wherever you're watching this on YouTube or whether you're watching this on Rumble. Now remember, be careful if you're watching this on YouTube because they likely use AI to surveil those comments. So be careful down there. Be careful what spelling you're using down there. Let's have a look now at Bobby Kennedy inviting a COVID reckoning. Could it ever really happen?
I wrote a book about Fauci. There's 2,200 footnotes in the book, and I invited people at the beginning of the book. All of my sources in the books are, I did something that had never been done before, which I put them on a barcode next to them, so you can actually, as you read, you can look up the sourcing. And I invited people to find problems with the book. I said, tell me what they are, and we will correct them. We had 27 editions, so we had the capacity to correct anything, and nobody ever told us any actual error in that book. And if you read that book, it's hard to, I don't look into Anthony Fauci's head. I don't look into Bill Gates' head. I don't say he did this because he was greedy or because he was manipulative. I just lay out what they did, and the story speaks for itself. And, it's a story of people involved in really terrible, immoral, homicidal, criminal behavior. And using a position in government that he had for 50 years without any election to clamp down these totalitarian controls that were not science-based and that everybody now admits there was no science. In fact, yesterday, the chief attorney for FDA admitted that there was no reason. He admitted because he lost the case in court against a doctor, but there was no reason to discourage people from taking ivermectin. Ivermectin was a very, very devastating cure for COVID. It literally obliterated COVID. And, by depriving people of ivermectin, many people, millions of people around the globe died. And they didn't need to. There were cures for COVID from day one, and very effective cures. Right. But they didn't want that. They wanted the vaccine only. And there's a rule, a little-known federal rule that they were all aware of, which said that you cannot issue an emergency use authorization for a vaccine if there is an existing remedy that has already been approved for any use. So if they admitted that hydroxychloroquine or famotidine or ivermectin or any of the 25 existing therapeutic drugs that were very effective against COVID, if they admitted that any of them were effective, the whole vaccine project would have fallen apart. They couldn't have done it. And so they decided that they were going to pretend that there was no cure except for the vaccine. And they gave people a product that was not properly tested, and then now you have a whole generation of kids that has now, got myocarditis, these terrible heart problems in young athletic boys. You're seeing so many kids now drop dead on playing fields,
right.
And that we never saw anything like this before. On average, it was, I think, 29 a month globally, athletes who died on the field, and we were getting down to hundreds a month now.
Right.
And it's, and there still has to be a reckoning. The mainstream media hasn't caught up with the science. But the science is out there now, and it's devastating.
The mainstream media have not only not caught up with the science, but they're ignoring the science because there's a vested interest in ensuring that the truth doesn't get out, because the reckoning required around COVID is the type of reckoning that unravels entire systems. It's pretty fascinating to have a figure like Bobby Kennedy so adjacent to the mainstream, because otherwise you can't publicly talk about something that many of us have seen with our own eyes. Like, I've been watching sport in one way or another most of my life, not to an obsessive degree, but enough to notice that it appears that more people are suddenly collapsing than used to. I'm not a statistician or expert in demographics or data analysis, but I know that during the pandemic period, mortality overall did not increase. It increased in the post-pandemic period. What conclusions could be drawn from that? I'm not an expert in media, but I know that stories around vaccine injury were repressed and controlled, and I personally recall how vehemently the various media organisations just in my country, say the radio I would listen to, the TV that I would watch, advocated for taking the vaccine, that they created the idea that by taking a vaccine, you're not only protecting yourself, but it was necessary in order to protect other, more vulnerable people. Do you know that in the last year or so, that kind of argument slipped away? You might remember hospitals that were built that we were told would be filled and never were. You might remember the endless TikTok videos of apparently overwhelmed medical staff that had time to sort of work on choreography and stuff. But what we have at the bulwark, the forefront of this, are the sets of interests that we've always known are able to subvert what are called republics or democracies, essentially countries run according to the will of the people. What we can see is how the pharmaceutical industry, the organisations that regulate them, the media and the government are able to work together to ensure that facts are ignored, overwhelmed, that deception is elevated to the level of truth. Already we've been invited, like we were with 9/11 or the assassination of JFK, to kind of just put it to the back of your mind. Don't think about it really. Don't think about the fact that, did you see that New York Times cover? Was it New York Times or was it New Yorker cover of a school child dressed head to toe in PPE? We were under the headline, "Back to School, School's Back In." It was completely normalized. We were told we were in the middle of an event that would likely kill hundreds of millions of people. Kamala Harris herself, on stage on numerous occasions, claimed that 220 million people had died. I'm sure it's just a slip of a tongue. It seems like a pretty slippery tongue, doesn't it? Some of the words that come ambling and spilling out of that portal. But the fact is this, that an impression was created of the nature of the crisis that was deliberately hysterical in order to legitimize authority and regulation. And as your great comedian George Carlin always says, when interests converge, no conspiracy is required. If the government benefits and big pharma benefits and big tech benefits and the media benefit, then and indeed if there's the biggest wealth transfer in history, then there's no requirement for a shadowy room or a ceremony to Moloch, the evil owl god. Although increasingly I'm beginning to think that such things are a possibility. Bobby Kennedy's movement into the mainstream, albeit an alliance with Trump, is a seismic shift in this election. Let me know if you agree in the comments and chat. Remember to like and subscribe, and we stream on Rumble every single day. Be sure and join us there. We can't continue to bring you this beautiful content without the support of our partners. The war against free speech is in full swing. We are the vanguard, bravely fighting back. Rumble's the home of this channel, Stay Free, and a leader in defending the fundamental human right of free speech. They've joined X to sue a cartel of advertisers and ad agencies who conspire to block ad revenue from going to the platforms. Recently, they've launched Rumble Premium. This, I think, is going to be a game changer for all of us. It's an ad-free viewing experience with great perks for viewers and creators. Rumble Premium will give you the ability to dive into your favorite content on your mobile or desktop or smart TV and savor every uninterrupted second of my content. Why don't you upgrade to Rumble Premium today? Support my free speech and the free speech of other content creators on this platform. Please go to Rumble now, rumble.com/premium. And if you use the code BRAND, you'll save $10 and Rumble will be aware that our stream is creating great converts. So that's rumble.com/premium and do use the code BRAND to save $10. Anyway, there's a link there at the bottom of the screen now. We're posting it in the chat. Join up. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.